But some people think we are belonging to some stokvel or thuggery in some of the branches, people disrupting, and community members seeing meetings of our organization being disrupted by thugs, people being injured in some of our meetings, and residents in Gauteng become concerned.
Do you know anything about this, Alex?
But I think that's undermining ANC members.
Yeah.
Individuals cannot force thousands of ANC members to do wrong things.
Yeah. Do you think it's premature to start talking about 2027?
Yeah, it's premature. What is the purpose of that discussion?
Yes.
There's no mandate. It says we will mandate you to talk about the next leadership in 2027.
What are some of the main identified problems that caused the weaknesses that led to the election results dropping like that?
So it's people not focusing on what the functions of us as members and leaders, not focusing on what the ANC is all about.
But are we likely to see changes, say, then in the executive council that are not influenced by those dynamics?
No, changes for what?
Welcome to Sunday World Engage Politics podcast. Today, we have a guest who is new in his position, is the coordinator of the Gauteng ANC provincial task team. Recently appointed, he's not new to the provincial politics. He was the provincial secretary between 2014 and 2018, and before that, he served in the legislature from 1998 to 2014, served once again 2019 to 2024 as the parliamentary councillor to the Deputy President, Mr. Paul Mashatile. But our guest today is Papo, who is the coordinator of the Gauteng Provincial Task Team. The guy. Yes. How has it been? I mean, you've been in the role for a couple of weeks now. How are you finding it?
I think it's an important responsibility. Yeah. I find it to be a challenge, but I'm comforted by the fact that we have got a solid provincial task team with a number of experienced people with organizational, governance, and political experience, and will be able to fulfill the tasks, hopefully, to unite, to rebuild, and renew and strengthen the organization. It's a challenge, but we think that with that PTT we have of the 69 members and the ex-officio members from the regions and the leagues, will be able to do it, because the extra capacity in the province means that we can do many tasks at the same time.
Yeah. Is it not a challenge, though? I mean, other people have complained that, I mean, having a provincial task team that is almost the size of the NEC might be a challenge, whereby there might be a lot of disagreements, there might be factions within the structure. What do you have to say about that?
The National Executive Committee made it clear, those who have got factional interests, negativity and toxic approach to the work should just leave the structure, because we're not going to be voting on things and so on. We're going to be looking at how we're going to strengthen the organization, at what level, at voting district level, at block level, at the street level, ensuring that we've got strong branch executive committees with functional subcommittees which deal with the concerns of people: health, safety, education, local economic development, environment, looking at those. If you have got BECs which are like that, that's what the ANC has been like that for a number of years. And then the problem started in the organization, where people deliberately ignored the functions of the ANC. So we are returning the ANC to what it's supposed to do in the communities. And those who don't agree with that agenda are not going to be forced or dragged into that agenda, because that's what the ANC is meant to do.
And what would you say about the retention of the previous Provincial Executive Committee, the PEC, in its entirety, into this new PTT? Others, cynics might say, yeah, but what was the whole point of doing a PTT if you still keep the same people that you say have inefficiencies? But optimists might say it's an acknowledgement that on their own they may have inefficiencies, but with the additions it's an improvement, it's to give them impetus to do more. Where do you fall into those two positions?
It proves that it was not a disbandment, but a reconfiguration.
Yeah.
You add capacity to the existing one. People are saying, what is this reconfiguration? It has now been acted upon.
Yeah.
There are weaknesses. Now we are strengthening that the team which had led the province, and we ended up with 35%, which, by the way, is still the highest vote. There's no other political party in the province with that support. Even when we have got difficulties, we still remain the largest political party. So if we rebuild the organization, we'll go back to having 51 plus, because it's not something which is impossible. We just need to do what the ANC does best, ensure that people who work in government, our deployees, and the public servants of South Africa who don't belong to the ANC, they belong to various political parties, others may not belong to any political party, do what they're employed to do in government. So we think that it's actually reconfiguration, because you didn't disband the structure, you just reinforced it, you just disestablished it as a PEC, and because you can't have a PEC with 69 people. That's why it had to be sort of the PEC had to be disestablished. You reinforce it, and then you can only do that under the banner of the PTT.
Yeah. So, are you not worried as this new structure? Because previously, for instance, there's been difficulties with task teams, be it BTT, RTT, PTT, NTT, wherein the structures sort of become rebellious to taking instructions from people who belong to task teams. There's this whole debate that you are not elected, you are appointed, therefore you lack the legitimacy to be able to give out instructions. Are you not worried about that phenomenon?
I'm not worried, because elected structures is not a guarantee for winning elections and governing well. We've had task teams before in Gauteng. Gauteng, we've never had many disbandments. This is the second one. I mean, sorry, not disbandment, reconfiguration. We had a disbandment. The only one which happened at provincial level was 99, where Comrade Makura became the coordinator, and Bazima became the convener of the Gauteng Interim Leadership Corps. We went on to win elections that year with 2/3 majority under the leadership of that provincial Gauteng Interim Leadership Corps. We went on to win elections in 2000, the first elections for metro councils. We've had an RTT in Johannesburg before the elections of 2011. We won elections with an RTT in Joburg. We've had RTTs in Ekurhuleni. We won elections with those RTTs before. So there cannot be a general statement that RTTs have not actually been successful. They have been successful.
True.
There was an RTT, which was PTT, which was formed in Northwest before the elections of 2019, where some people were saying the ANC were going to lose that province from 67 to under 50. We only dropped with 3% to 64%. So it can't be made general statements. It must be specific. And the reality is that the RTTs and the PTT has been welcomed by our structures. There may be individuals who do have their own personal opinion. That's why I said elected structures are not a guarantee that you run the organization well, because we have lost elections with elected structures in the regions, in the branches, and in the province. You just need people who operate, because task teams have got same powers with elected structures. It's either the names are different, but they've got full powers in the constitution. So any individual who says that we should not attend to problems because an elected structure, if you have a BEC which does not function in an area, you disestablish it and start a task team. And if a BEC reaches its mandate end, you convert it into a branch task team to prepare for the biannual general meeting to elect a leadership there and look at a program of action.
What are the foremost tasks and I hope that you guys must be seized with? I mean, there's a whole thing of re-establishing and rebuilding the structures of the ANC, and then there's going to be an immediate work of working towards the local government elections of next year. And already in terms of rebuilding the structures and taking the province to the next conference, there's already cynics and pessimists who say that actually might not be possible, especially looking at this twin task of the ANC and the local government elections. Is it at all a possibility that by November, as per the provision of the Constitution that you can deliver the provincial conference?
Provincial conference is not meant for this year. It's next year in June.
Yeah.
It's only regional conferences this year.
Yeah, but I'm saying that doesn't the Constitution of the ANC say interim structures can only exist
No, but the
up to 9
Constitution
months?
makes a provision that if you have not actually done so the issue is not a pressure for provincial conference. The issue is to rebuild, because the structures are there. There are different levels of development in various wards.
Okay.
Others have continued to function. Others are functioning at 50%. Others are functioning at 30%. Others are not functioning.
Yeah.
So you need to disaggregate those structures and then propose what is relevant for those structures. So part of after 9 months, if we have done the work, regional conferences have already, 4 regions are due for conference this year. Part of is to supervise that process. Remember, regions have got delegated functions from the province. And in this respect, they will have delegated powers from the PTT.
Yeah.
So we have to take those regions to conferences with functional, active, and vibrant branches. That's why I said those branches must have sub-branches. They must have presence at block level in that voting district, and have some form of presence at street level. So part of the work we're doing now is to rebuild organization along those lines. They must take 1 or 2 campaigns in the community before even preparing for a conference.
Yeah.
They must also renew members in that branch, in line with the upgraded membership system of the organization. So those are the 3 main basic tasks which we have outlined to the regions and to the branches, that they should do those 3 tasks. There are others which they have to do, but those 3 are the main ones which immediately will set a correct footing for our branches to prepare for those regional conferences. So it's not an administrative process. You elect delegates and so on.
Yeah.
So to approve a BBGM, you must have proven. Also, I just nearly made a mistake. The foundation course.
Yes.
In every branch.
Okay.
The modules of the foundation course must be done in every branch.
Okay.
So the foundation course, 1 or 2 community programs, the 3rd one will be renewing your membership. Those are the basics which a branch must do. And also the 1 or 2, those 2 do. Before you even say, let's set up a meeting, processes to prepare for a biannual general meeting, and also to prepare for the regional conference. That's the minimum we want.
Yeah. So if I hear you correct, the primary issue here is not to go to conference with like structures that are in tatters. Yes. So the primary task is to strengthen the structures, the branches that is as a basic unit. And then after that, you can focus on other things such as conferences and so on and so forth.
No, but we are doing that because ANC generally respects its internal democracy.
Yeah.
There's no structure in the ANC which can function without renewing of a mandate. But because the conference are due this year, the issue of when they happen this year will be subjected to these 3 issues I've mentioned.
Okay.
So you can't say I'm going to a conference in April when we have not done these 3 basics.
Yeah.
You need to then put a program which ensures that every branch has 1 or 2 programs in the community. The second, foundation course. Renewal of membership so that, because our membership system has been upgraded.
Yeah.
The members must be renewed, those who are in the system. You must identify 1 or 2 community programs, and then do a foundation course. So the conferences will still happen. The regional conference this year, the 4 out of the 5.
Yes.
But the when is dependent on these 3. Because we don't want to go to a conference and after conference, organization must continue to function, and we must prepare for the coming local government elections. Because rushing to a conference when we've got a weak organization, it's a recipe for disaster, because you have to come back from that conference and continue with the work of preparing for the local government elections, continue taking up problems of the communities where those branches are existing. So that is why the issue of the conference must be balanced with whether those structures will be able to continue after those conferences and prepare for a successful outcome of elections for the ANC.
Yeah. So is Joburg, well, among those regions, is the Greater Joburg region, has set a date for June. In terms of your assessment, I don't know if the PTT has done any assessment. Are they ready for that conference?
We have spoken to all the regional officials of our for the ANC regional officials. We say, if you have set in June, in our engagement as part of our work, Show us that all the branches in good standing have done they've set up mechanisms and meetings to do the foundation course. Show us that the branches have taken 1 or 2 campaigns in their area. Then they've also renewed members who are supposed to be renewed. We're not talking about people who don't want to renew. There are people who wanted to renew, but our membership system was still being upgraded.
Yeah.
And then it was actually opened up for renewals. So if they show us that, and between now and the time they've set for, and then you can then set biannual general meetings. Those processes is to ensure that all the people who have renewed are on the system. Because remember, ANC membership registers, you draw them, you print them from the system.
Yeah.
With people who have been given rights on the system. You can then do that to minimize disputes and conflicts, and then you convene a biannual general meeting, then you go to the conference, and you deal with whatever disputes. You want to minimize, because having disputes just for the sake of them, so that the process must such that we have very few disputes.
Yes.
If you can demonstrate that, then you can and then show that the time frames you have set. Remember, the time frames were set. The process started last year, even before the reconfiguration.
Yes, correct.
If you can demonstrate that, then you go to a conference. So it's not one size fits all for every region.
Yes.
Every region must demonstrate that at least the branches can do the 3 minimum requirements.
Yeah.
And every branch has done that. And then you then confirm the date.
Yeah.
So the date is soft, pending demonstrating that the 3 minimums have been done.
Okay.
We're not changing the dates, but if they can show that,
Yeah.
because some regions started last year, they've been renewing membership, but we want as many members of the ANC to renew their membership, because once you join the ANC, you're on the system. And then your membership may lapse, but you are still a member.
Yeah.
You just renew. They'll tell you have lapsed with 6 months, 4 years. You cover that period you have lapsed, and then going forward.
In terms of, I don't know if the PTT has done the assessment of why the ANC got the results that it got in the 2024 national and provincial elections, which is 34%, which has brought us to where we are. The reconfiguration of the PEC, the installation of the PTT. What are some of the main identified problems that caused the weaknesses that led to the election results dropping like that?
The results started to drop from 2009, from that period to date. So it's people not focusing on what the functions of us as members and leaders, not focusing on what the ANC is all about. In various structures of the organization. It could be a branch, it could be a sub-region or a zone or a region, or at the provincial level. Secondly, subjective weaknesses which are linked to governance at municipal and provincial level, and to some extent also national, but obviously they vary. National doesn't implement many of the programs. They set the policy framework, organizes the resources, and implementation happens at the regional, local, regional, and at the local level. So those are the two main weaknesses in governance, which part of our work is to ensure that we strengthen the work of our deployees in government. Deployees, I'm talking about MPs, MPLs, and councillors. Those are the deployees. Everybody else is an employee. It's not a deployee. So that if you strengthen that work, concurrently strengthening the organization. That's why it's unity, rebuilding, renewal, and strengthening. Those things work interchangeably, because it's not that we are starting. The ANC still has members in the province who are in good standing. There are branches which are functioning, others, as I said, at varying degrees. But because people were not focusing on the function of the organization, which is to serve the communities, that's why support went down. And now we want to say no. Those who want to serve in the ANC, who want to still do, here's an opportunity the organization has provided. And those who don't want to serve, the organization cannot force them to do it. They have a liberty of actually withdrawing and being part of other organizations. But that's not our aim. We want as many as of our members in good standing, and those who are not in good standing to be part of the effort of unity, rebuilding, renewal, and strengthening of the organization, and ensuring that our governance. That's why the presence of the organization at the street level, at the block level, at the VD level, will help us to monitor implementation of local programs, provincial programs, and national programs. Because if you don't have that presence, you can have a pie bursting and nobody takes it up. So ANC members must actually be able to use that machinery to take up those problems at the local level, follow them up and come and report to residents what has happened to that problem. If it's only going to be solved in 2 days, they must be able to explain that the Department of Government or an agency of government will repay it in 2 days, and what should be the reason why they'll only come after 2 days. But if nobody explains the best pipe there, but also they'll be able to look after infrastructure of communities, because the other problem we have in our communities is somebody who will damage a robot and then pretend why the traffic light is not working. Cut it in the evening or whatever time. The same person comments with community members why the traffic light is not working. So part of our work is to protect our infrastructure in the community. Also, reprimand delinquents in our community. Somebody stands there, urinates on the wall of a public facility. And then that facility urine starts smelling in that area, around that facility. But if we have a machinery which a person starting to stop and do it, people say, oh, don't do that. So we want to return to communities which can counsel each other on wrong things which are happening. Because it's not only government which has to deliver services. Communities must also protect the infrastructure and ensure that the infrastructure which exists in the community is protected.
Yes.
And the ANC, together with all its alliance partners, the civic movement, the Communist Party, the PYA, in this rebuilding, we are going to involve the alliance partners and the PYA. It's not only ANC. Yes. They must protect, they must work with residents in the communities to rebuild the spirit of responsibility in our communities.
Yeah, and you locate the dropping support from 2009, correctly so, coming forward. But one of the biggest moments, or the first biggest moment, was 2016 when the ANC lost the Gauteng metros. Well, at least Tshwane and Joburg at the time.
No, the three of them were at 40%.
Oh yeah. And
but
then
Ekurhuleni was just a drop in few seats. We needed 4 seats in Ekurhuleni.
I remember. And
then we got 6. Yeah. We got 6 seats additionally supporting us. Yeah. That's why we could run Ekurhuleni for 5 years.
Yeah, because it was not a multi-party, it was just 2 parties.
No. We had 6 parties which supported us.
Oh, but small parties.
No. We needed 4 extra seats to have 51%. But we got 6 seats out of those parties. So there were others who gave us, we needed only 4, but we got 6.
Yes.
So that's why we could have more than 51% to govern until the end of the term in 2021.
Yes. So, okay, the point I wanted to make, at that time, you were the provincial secretary. What were the problems at that time that caused that particular situation of losing the metros?
That's when the organization was already going astray. And we then went to a conference in 2018 and said we needed to do 1, 2, 3 to rebuild the organization.
Yes.
Comrades tried, because I'm not a person who, when you are not in the scene, you criticize people for having tried.
Yeah.
We already saw that there's a problem. Thuggery in some of the branches, people disrupting, and community members seeing meetings of our organization being disrupted by thugs. People being injured in some of our meetings, but it's a minority of those branches. But those things get reported in the press.
Yes.
And residents in Gauteng become concerned. If people disrupt meetings in the ANC, what is the future? They will then sit at home or support. Most then decided to not vote. And were saying to us, sort out the organization.
Yes.
And we think that message we got, that there are wrong things happening, weaknesses in government, but some of the problems were not subjective, they were objective, where the economy is not doing well, people losing jobs, and most of those jobs were lost in the private sector, not in the public sector.
Yeah.
So we already saw that. And then that's when we went to the conference. And if you look at the decisions we took in that conference, were about renewal, but also strengthening governance. Comrades tried, but remember, in an organization, when there are people who have infiltrated that organization to disrupt its work, to cause chaos in the organization, they would have actually set up some networks in the organization to resist renewal. When you are trying to rebuild the organization, they don't implement some of them. And mostly implementation is at the local level. But obviously at various levels we had difficulties, at the regional level, at the provincial level. But a lot of those problems were highly concentrated at the local level where the ANC life is, where our branches were hijacked, wrong things were happening. Membership, before we had the electronic membership system, our members' forms will disappear before biannual general meetings. We noted that, but also the strength of the organization, not at a very, very basic level, being street and block and VD. We identified the problem there, that we need to rebuild the organization up to street level. And then we had also other national issues which were at play towards the 2017 conference, where people get so fixated with being election of leaders at the expense of the role and functions of the ANC, and also improvement of governance. So we already knew. That's why we took a very, very conscious decision that it's both organizational and the improvement of governance. Now, the governance difficulties is that public servants are not ANC members, or many majority of them. So the ANC can only drive them to do certain things which improve lives of people. But we think that working with the trade union movement, all trade unions, government should continue to do that, our government in Gauteng, to also express, ask the public servants to do their best to actually service the communities to the best of their abilities.
Yeah, and I hope one of the boogeymans that are blamed for the degeneration of the ANC, especially in Gauteng, is this so-called boogeyman that is the so-called Alex Mafia. I don't know it, but it's a talk that is constantly there that no, the stranglehold of the Alex Mafia on ANC structures in Gauteng is the actual problem. Do you know anything about this Alex
But
Mafia
I think that's
phenomenon?
undermining ANC members.
Yeah.
Individuals cannot force thousands of ANC members to do wrong things.
Yeah.
The ANC doesn't operate that way. It's not possible to do it. A few individuals, how do they force people to subvert processes and so on? Individuals. And by the way, the subversion of the ANC was not done by a majority of its members. It's just a few individuals. And these people were spread throughout the province. Some of them have left the organization. They've joined other parties because renewal is not in their agenda. So when the renewal movement is moving, and renewal is about individuals and collectives of the organization.
Yes.
Because you cannot change the organization through structures, and individuals don't take responsibility for changing their day-to-day actions for the benefit of the ANC. So I don't believe that it's possible that the individuals can then cajole and force thousands of our members. Remember, ANC at its peak in Gauteng would have over 150,000 to 200,000 members. Now, how can the individuals force 150, 200,000 members in the province to do wrong things? The wrong things are done consciously by those individuals who want to hijack the programs and agenda of the African National Congress. The majority must be given authority in those structures to know that they will be supported when those wrong things are corrected. When they want to take disciplinary action against disruptors in the organization, they must be given authority through the constitution to act on those people. And that ANC is not about being elected to a BC, being elected to an REC, being elected to a PEC and the NEC. Those elections must be a method of facilitating service to the people. It's not an end in itself.
Yes.
So that's my view. That it's a boogie story.
Yeah.
But in reality, people do things because they want to do them.
Yes. No, I understand. So, tell me, I know that it doesn't exist in black and white. Are you banned, for instance, in your current position as a coordinator, are you banned from running for a position when the provincial conference, and I'm not asking you specifically, I'm asking general, for instance, would Mike Mabuya Kulu also be banned? But I'm using you because I'm talking to you as an example. What I want to understand is that are people who are serving in the PTT barred from running when the provincial conference eventually does take place?
I think it will be incorrect to be in the PTT and then your aim is to stand for the next elections. And all of us who have been appointed, we have served. Comrade Mabuya Kulu was the deputy chair in KZN. He has served in our structures for many years. So our focus is not about being elected to leadership position is to work with the collective to strengthen the organization. And then people who want to stand can stand. But it's not my agenda to stand. It's not in my agenda.
Yeah.
I don't think it's correct to do it.
Okay.
To say I accept to be a coordinator so that I can be elected something in the coming conference.
Well, but others would say maybe you didn't finish your tasks. As a previous provincial secretary who served one term, they would say maybe this is your opportunity to finish the job.
You see this thing of leadership and saying you must explain to people in the organization who think you must be leader about various important considerations.
Yes.
If we do the work, leaders will emerge in the province who can lead our branches, who can lead our regions, who can lead the province. I cannot have a view that if I'm not in leadership, the ANC should not exist. It's a fallacious kind of an approach to leadership of a progressive revolutionary organization such as an ANC. It's a very flawed and populist approach to leadership. You serve, and then you serve under other people. You don't want to serve only when you are in the leadership. It means that I'll be saying that there are no other people in the province who can become leaders except me. And I think it's incorrect. That's an incorrect approach. That's why I say it's a fallacious, populist approach to leadership. It's not progressive, it's not revolutionary. Because we belong to a progressive movement. But some people think we are belonging to some Stokvel with pardoning my use of the word, it's the lack of a good word, because Stokvels are better organized.
Yeah.
Even in Stokvels,
Yeah.
you cannot just become a chair in a
Yes.
Stokvel. You don't have a track record in a Stokvel.
Yes.
So I want to appeal to Stokvels. It's just that I didn't have a better word, but
Yeah.
I'm explaining. In Stokvels are better organized. The discipline in Stokvels is even firm. If you don't take the work of the Stokvel seriously, they fine you. So let me retract the word Stokvel.
Yeah, spaza shop maybe.
No, even spaza shops. You can't run a spaza shop without organization. So let me use the word.
Yeah.
Just a voluntary social club.
Okay. Yes.
Let me use that word. A voluntary social club.
Yeah.
Stokvels and spaza shops are better organized. Otherwise, they will collapse if they are not organized.
True.
So I wish to ask for an apology from Stokvels for using the word Stokvel.
Yeah. And then the other hurdle that I hope that you must contend with, there's the obvious upcoming national conference of the ANC. I know, yes, all leaders would like to say, yeah, but we are not there, blah, blah, blah. But the machinations behind the scenes, the lobbying, the campaigning silently underground is happening. And in the position that you are in, you cannot avoid being, sometimes wrongly or rightly, to be associated with such unofficial campaigns. And for instance, the reason I'm stating this with you might, because you worked with Ndade Paul Mashatile, who's the deputy president of the ANC, and is being called to avail himself for president of the ANC in 2027, you might wrongly be associated to say you are going to serve his agenda through the structure. What would you say?
I was working as a parliamentary councillor of the former deputy president Didi Mabuza, and also with Mashatile. I was deployed. It was not a favor. The organization suggested and recommended that I be the parliamentary councillor.
Yeah.
So I don't serve with them at the mercy of those people. I have got an opinion which I express in my branch who I want to be in a particular position.
Yeah.
So it's not automatic that because I've served with somebody in a structure, I must support them.
I get you.
Because I have a branch which I belong to. That's where I participate in the nomination. I don't participate in these other forums which are not organizational forums, very disruptive, some of those forums. My view is that people must express their opinions about leadership and who must lead the ANC at various levels in their branches.
Yes.
Not in some informal meeting which then undermines official structures of the organization. That's part of the renewal. We want to kill that approach to leadership.
Yes.
People must discuss leadership in meetings. And then we talk to each other. You know, when you work, you do a lot of organizational work. Conflicts become less.
Yes.
Because we are all busy doing organizational work. Some of the idling people like to do, like those meetings we're talking about, which are unofficial, very, very undermining to constitutional structures of the organization.
Yeah.
So anybody who thinks that I'm going to support somebody because I served with them in a specific structure, no, they are mistaken.
Yeah.
I'll express my opinions in my branch about leadership when the nominations open. I'll go to my branch and express an opinion, including about who must be in my branch leadership. I've done it before, and I think people must just be mature and grow up politically and understand that the ANC has got a lot of responsibilities to do. And being fixated with unofficial meetings to elect leadership is not going to make us to win elections in 2026, 27, and 2029.
And then maybe let's shift our conversation a bit to focus on government, since some of your tasks is to improve governance. What are the primary role that you must play? Or in fact, what is your first initial assessment of the municipalities, especially in Gauteng? Most of the big municipalities here, be it metros, district municipalities, are under coalition arrangements, which there was a lot of criticism or tributes to in the previous regime of the PEC. But now it's a new regime of the PTT. How do you take that work forward, or how do you dismantle things that were said to be wrong with those coalition arrangements?
The report on municipalities existing, we're not going to do a new report. Our job is to implement the decisions which were made. The first thing, it was incorrect for a political party with the majority votes not to lead the municipality. That's why it was corrected. The principle of coalition, firstly, is that the party with the biggest vote then takes the leadership of an institution and can have majority of seats in terms of the leadership.
Yes.
It's continental. So the anomaly of minority party mayors from smaller parties had to be corrected, and it was corrected.
Yes.
Now the job of correcting some of the problems has started in billing and so on, in the metros, in the local municipalities and in the district. Local municipalities and in the metros. It has started. Our job is to monitor that work, which has already started. Some of the problems in municipalities such as Sedibeng and West Rand is that the economies there are actually depressed. That's why part of the provincial and national government is to stimulate economies in regions like West Rand and Sedibeng, so that you create a bigger tax base. It's still better than some of the rural municipalities.
Correct. Because
it's in Gauteng. Gauteng is a compact province. People don't travel long distances, spending huge amounts. Yes, they spend a lot on transport, but it's better in Gauteng because of its compact nature. So we're going to, through our subcommittees, the legislature and governance, and the local government intervention subcommittee, led by Mr. Trevor Fowler, and the legislature and governance led by Sisnandi Mayatula Khoza. Those two subcommittees and others, they are supposed to drive the issue of working with our regions to improve governance in the metros and in the local municipalities. That is why, for example, we will be having a meeting with appointed coordinators, which will add administrative support to all the subcommittees. We're consolidating them with extra people. On Monday, we'll have subcommittee conveners and coordinators meeting. And then from there, we schedule subcommittee meetings before our PET meeting and Lekgotla, so that the subcommittees look at the priorities of Gauteng, which were outlined by our Premier. And then those issues, they're going to be given to particular relevant ones, will be given to particular subcommittees to actually become part of their work. The regions will be represented, the RECs will be represented on those subcommittees, and then those subcommittees become the driver of ensuring that the plans which the Premier has outlined in the State of the Province address are monitored by the organization through the subcommittees of the PTT. So we're not going to come and behave as there was nothing.
Yes.
That mentality, we improve where there were weaknesses, we consolidate where there were strengths.
Yeah. And are we likely at all to have a change in the setup of those coalitions? For instance, I would make an example. There was a lot of talk about the coalition arrangement of the ANC and the EFF in Ekurhuleni, for instance. The two parties at some point were even having public spats about when there was a removal of the finance MMC who came from the EFF ranks. So there's been a lot of talks about some of the toxicities that are identified in some of the setup of these metros.
No, I think it's the only one which you're mentioning. Don't
Yes.
say there's a lot. Don't say there's a lot.
Yes.
In other municipalities, there's no toxicity.
True. Well, maybe it's not
There are no
publicized
toxicities.
yet.
Yeah, there are no.
Okay, but as a basic point, I'm using that as a case study. Are we likely to see any changes whereby you say maybe working with the DA would be less toxic than working with the EFF, for instance, taking Ekurhuleni as an example?
I think the leadership of Ekurhuleni can be better explain that, because I'm not speaking on behalf of any region or any municipality. I cannot speak. I think it will be better for them to speak. But the ANC has made it clear that we want to work with all the political parties which got elected, either in municipalities or at the provincial level or at national level. That's why when the GNU was established, the ANC talked to everybody, including those who are not in the GNU. So you cannot say, therefore, whatever changes, if they have to happen, there's something wrong. It doesn't make sense, because so I cannot say there will be changes.
Yes.
But at the same time, the leadership of every region and municipalities must make an assessment in terms of what's happening in their space.
Yes.
And then they will engage with those coalition partners. It's important when you are in a coalition partner, you must engage with those partners about problems you may be having and trying to resolve those problems together. If those problems cannot be resolved, you escalate to the province, engage the provincial leadership of those various parties to find an amicable solution. It can even go to national.
Yes.
So for now, the Ekurhuleni people are working together. If there are problems, they must talk to those coalition partners, and they will come to us if there are issues they want to escalation to provincial level and national level.
Yeah. And then, but those problems actually expand to the province, which under this government of provincial unity, which is new, with different characteristics to the government of national unity. And there was a whole lot of talk around that too. We would recall that there was even postponement about 3 times of the announcement of the provincial executive because the ANC and the DA couldn't find each other in terms of
the seats.
Yes, in terms of the split of the spoils, you know.
The seats.
Yes, the seats in the provincial government.
Not the spoils. Because people elect them. They don't elect for spoils. They elect for seats.
the seats in the provincial executive council. But and there was a lot of conversations about why that was the case. Certain people said to be influencing the ANC in a particular direction. Are we likely to have a relook of those? Are we likely to have the ANC going back to the negotiation table with the DA to review that particular decision and probably chart a new way forward?
There's a GPU is functioning in the province.
Yeah.
Let's give it a chance. If any political party, because the doors are not closed to any political party. We just got support, 51 votes for the adjustment of the budget. 51 out of 80 seats in the legislature.
Yes.
That is on Tuesday. It means there are also other parties which are not in the GPU who voted for the adjustment budget in Gauteng.
Yeah, MK and EFF to be specific.
No, there are other parties which are not in the GPU. Remember, not every party which supports the ANC is having a cabinet seat in Gauteng.
Correct, yeah.
So I'm just saying that the doors are not closed to any political party to say, let's talk. So my sense is that if they want to engage our provincial leadership in government or us, they can do that. Because we haven't closed the door, because the ANC's approach is that we talk to all the political parties. We don't talk to only specific parties, unless the parties don't want to talk to us. But we talk to various political parties. And we believe South Africa would not have actually survived out of apartheid if ANC adopted an attitude that will only talk to people who come from the liberation movement. Because you have to talk to your adversaries. If you don't talk to your adversaries, how do you solve a problem?
Yeah.
You must talk to your adversaries. The ANC has always been like that from its founding. It wanted to talk when it was banned, the ANC. It was banned and forced into armed struggle. But even on the day the armed struggle was launched on the 16th December 1961, the manifesto of Umkhonto weSizwe said we still want to go to the negotiating table.
Yes.
When the pylons were being blown, the post offices and other government buildings. So we've always wanted negotiations because we felt other militant actions were imposed on us. Even now, we don't close doors on political parties because the future of the country is more important than the ego of your own party. You sacrifice. We included Bantustan people in the Codesa talks who were actually opposing before. We included the apartheid regime itself. We included many. It was multi-party talks, and talks must be multi-party in the true sense. In some instances, you can just co-govern with other people.
Yes.
But for now, we saying the GPU must continue functioning. Parties which are not in the GPU in Gauteng must continue supporting the African National Congress. Remember, even at national level, the doors are not closed to political parties which are outside the GNU. ANC signed individual agreements with political parties. There's no collective agreement in the GNU. Even in the province, the same thing has happened. The ANC signed agreements with political parties which form the GPU. So, but nobody will be forced into GPU, nobody will be forced into GNU. But the doors of the ANC are always open to all the political parties with some demonstrable support among the people of South Africa.
Yes, but are we likely to see changes, say, then in the executive council that are not influenced by those dynamics? For instance, let's say
changes for what?
No. But I'm saying if the governance subcommittee of the PTT says, look, we are identifying weaknesses in Department A and Department Z and Department F, which have ANC MSs, we think that there are shortcomings there, and we think that a change of personnel might be the best solution.
But that will be foolhardy. I mean, within a year, because reshuffle is not a change. When you shift people, when you remove people after less than a year, and normally we do assessments. The major assessment is done mid-term.
Yeah.
So we cannot talk of change now. The government is hardly 1 year. Because you can't there must be a scientific approach to assessment and evaluation of governance. It should not be based on an impromptu gut kind of a feeling, because that will be very dangerous. Because governance is a science. Statecraft is a science. It's a way of doing things. You don't just come there because I'm there, therefore I must change people. No. And that has been the problem also.
Yes.
You can't run government that way. In Gauteng, we've always for years said a change of leadership in the ANC does not mean a change in government. We've had people who were in government, MECs, and in the legislature were not PEC members. But they were good comrades.
Yes.
Because that's the organization remains. But this notion that when you have a new leadership, you must change. It happened, but even when it happened, it was not widespread changes. There'll be 1 or 2 changes, and then people are shifted to other responsibilities. So, but I'm just saying that it's important. For now, we're looking at the implementation of the priorities which Comrade Panyaza, the Premier, has presented in SOPA. Now, talking change when SOPA has just been presented, it will be just a bit foolhardy about it. We want implementation of those priorities which the Premier talked about, the 13 priorities. And by the way, he also said there's another one which he didn't announce, but it's very important for West Rand, the sinkholes in Gauteng.
Yes.
It's an issue which is very, very important, which we're not in the 13, but it's top on the radar in terms of, because they were dealing with it, but he may not have announced it in SOPA, but how do we deal with the Dolomitic West Rand? It's a very, very important issue, working with the national government. How do we deal with Dolomites and sinkholes of the West Rand, which are very, very serious in places such as Gauteng?
Yeah. And with... Okay, let me maybe move it a bit back now, more to personal experiences. I was working with Deputy President Titi Mabuza when you were his parliamentary councillor as a Deputy President. How was that experience? How did you find him to be the kind of person. I mean, there's a lot of, he's sort of a closed book type of a leader. He's not the leader that you would generally say, hey, I know that guy.
He was focusing on the delegated functions the president had given him.
Yeah.
All the delegated functions, he was convening meetings, going to the provinces. He was just focusing on the work, and his responsibility was, I'm the deputy president appointed by the president. I'm not here to compete with the president. Remember, deputy presidents are appointed by the president, like the ministers, but they have got more senior responsibilities because they are leader of government business, and therefore they are part of the presidency. So that's how he led. He did all those 12 or 11 to 13 delegated functions very, very well with the team in the presidency. Just at lockdown, some of the meetings would happen virtually. You meet with traditional leaders, they'll make arrangements to meet with to talk to the traditional healers in the various provinces. I mean, traditional leaders in the various provinces. So during that lockdown, there would not be gatherings, but the meetings with the various sectors he was given was happening. He was responsible. Almost all. I think they added 1 or 2 extra functions to the current deputy president.
Yes.
But he did that work very, very well. And his view was that I'm not here. I'm not in a political beauty contest. I must just focus on the work I've been given by the president.
And would you say that a leader like Date Mabuza, the cat, as some call him, does he have a role to play further in the ANC or in the country as a leader that you work closely with?
He's playing that role, by the way. In the campaign of last year, he was playing that big role.
Yes.
He's still a fully-fledged active member of the African National Congress, and obviously recognized as a former deputy president of the ANC and of the country, like all others, except those who obviously were expelled.
Yes. And then same question for the current deputy president now, whom you worked with first in the ANC here in the province, and then you also worked with, that's where you finished off your role as the parliamentary councillor to the leader of government business in parliament. How would you define him as a leader?
He also does focus, his work, he focuses on the tasks which have been given by the president, and in Didi Mabuza and him, they say our job is to support the president. Because that's what is expected from a deputy president, to support based on the work they do, not because of feelings of likings and so on. He also operates that way. He said, my job is to do the delegated functions I've been given by the president, including as a leader of government business, and just get on with the job. In the DDM, that area, moral regeneration. So they just focus on the work. And we related as comrades. That's how we relate. We were not relating because we are social friends. We related as comrades. That's how I related to both of them.
And how did you find Date Mashatile when he was provincial chairperson here in Gauteng, which was a more powerful position?
We worked very, very well. Yeah. Our team was one. We worked very well. We tried our best and to do everything for the African National Congress, defend its majority. Difficulties because Gauteng sometimes get impacted by things which are not necessarily caused by Gauteng, because it contributes over 30% to the GDP.
Yes,
the people the more than it's the biggest in terms of population. All people from the 8 provinces will find a footprint here, from the SADC, from other countries in the continent, for other regions in the world. So our role, we understood it to be far important. That's why the ANC now has reconfigured, because it's a very, very important province. Together with KZN, we constitute half of the population, adult population of South Africa, including also the registered voters of South Africa. It was a very, very good time. Yeah. Because we didn't know each other only from the ANC.
Okay.
We come from the UDF and the Mass Democratic Movement together. He was our secretary in Southern Transvaal of the UDF in '89. I was at that time I was in the student movement, South African National Students Congress, which used to be AZASO. So we know each other from there. He's older than me, but I was part of the affiliates of the UDF. He was in the youth movement. I was in the student movement. He was, tertiary student movement. He was in COSAS. He was also in Alexander Youth Congress. And then was elected the youngest secretary of the UDF in 1989. So 89-90 period.
And as someone that you've worked with in so many capacities before, how would you describe his leadership style? What sort of a leader that he is? Is he autocratic, whose word is the last word? Is he consultative? Is he hands-on? What type of a leader is he?
Both Didi and him are consultative. They were consultative. When I worked with them, the approach is consultative and a collective approach. But when decisions are taken, they implement those decisions with vigor and enthusiasm and defend those decisions. They don't abdicate, both of them. Because you asked me about both of them, I worked with.
Yes.
So that is the style they use.
Yeah. Do you think it's premature to start talking about 2027?
Yeah, it's premature.
Yeah.
Very premature, because we've been given a responsibility by the last conference 2.5 years ago to build an organization, to rebuild the organization, to unite it, to renew it. That's the focus, improve governance. So those who talk about it, what is the purpose of that discussion?
Yes.
When we have got these two big challenges of uniting, rebuilding, renewal, and strengthening the organization, and improving excuse me, pardon me. What is the purpose of that? That discussion of leadership. Discussing leadership for what purpose? Because currently we've got a big job of uniting, renewing, rebuilding, and strengthening the organization and improving governance. When we have done that task, and our assessment is that we have reclaimed lost ground, we talk about leadership, and sometimes we even will have a consensus.
Yes.
As I told you, when people don't do work, organizational work, they tend to focus on things which are not important in the agenda of the organ. The leadership is the last issue when we've done the work. Then in the process of working, we identify the strengths and weaknesses of each other. When you don't work, how are you going to identify strengths and weaknesses of people? With the current challenges. I'm not talking about the challenges we had in 89, 94, 99, 2000. I'm talking about the current challenges. Those who do these tasks at the current moment. Leadership emerges. And then we say, we've seen when we're doing this work, one day is good in this one is good in that. So I emphatically say, let's focus on the mandate of conference. They didn't mandate us, talk about leadership for the next conference. There was no mandate like that. People have created that mandate for themselves. There's no mandate says, we will mandate you to talk about the next leadership in 2027. There's no mandate like that.
Correct.
But leadership must emerge out of the work we have done to rebuild the organization, to improve governance, ensuring that our MPs, MPLs, and councillors, who are some of them are MMCs, MECs, and ministers and deputy ministers, work in departments, and they are supported by all the public servants of South Africa to do the work, with all the subjective and the objective problems we have in the country.
Finally, and I hope as we wrap up our conversation, what, in your view, is the future of the ANC? Firstly, in Gauteng, and then broadly, just nationally, with all the current challenges, especially if we draw lessons from the 2024 provincial and national elections, and in view of what is coming, which is the local government elections. What is the future of the ANC? Is the bleak one where you can say, my goodness, the ANC is getting obliterated? Or is there light at the end of the tunnel where you can say, maybe we might actually bounce back in the local government elections?
If we have a strong organization and improve governance, and we deal with other objective factors, which is a growing economy, because there are endogenous and exogenous factors which affect the economy. Others are internal in South Africa, others external. And then we have a strong organization we deal with, we will actually emerge stronger. Remember, even at our weakest point, there's no political organization in South Africa which have got more support than the African National Congress, if you speak. I'm not talking about them combined. I'm talking about individual organizations which receive the same support ANC have. Nationally, as you speak, there's no organization. Provincially, as we speak, there's no organization. In the municipalities, there's no organization, except those who are run by the main opposition, which will be your Democratic Alliance. So I expect that with the enthusiasm and the critical mass of our members and supporters in our province, saying, I'm raising my hand to help to rebuild the organization, to unite it, to renew it, to strengthen it, we will emerge victorious in 2026, 2027. Obviously, with an improved governance and a strong organization. We don't emerge victorious with a weak organization and weak governance at local, provincial, and national level. The African National Congress, it's very, very important to the life of South Africa.
Why do you say that?
The anxiety which happened after the elections of 2024, which led to the negotiations of a GNU, tells you that the ANC is a very important political component of South Africa. Because some of the political parties which were saying, we want to take you on that 51%, were prepared to talk to the ANC to form a government of national unity and the GPU in Gauteng. They couldn't come together, those political parties, to form a government.
And they could, by the way, because if you look at the numbers, there could have been a government without the ANC. ANC is at 40, the rest of the others, they make up 60%.
But they knew that there were problems which happened when they tried that experiment in 2016 in the municipalities.
Yes.
Joburg had reserves in 2016. What happened after 2016? Reserves in some of its agencies. They had reserves, hard cash in the bank.
Yes.
Joburg was rated very high. Ekurhuleni was rated very high. Tshwane was rated very high. But what happened after 2016? They knew that that experiment of after 2016, which we further corrected last year in the metros, would not have helped them. It would have been a complete disaster at the national level. Trying to form government with very inexperienced political parties, toddling political parties to try and form. They knew that you have to have strength, experience, and enthusiasm when you form a GNU and a GPU. You must have the combination of the two. We're 113 years. And by the way, the difference between us and other political parties who've got many problems in their ranks is that we take South Africans into confidence about our problems. And people now think it's a culture we've developed in South Africa. Yes. People want to know what's happening about nominations of the ANC. It's an internal process. But South Africans and people of Gauteng will want to know who gets elected into a branch and so on, which to us is not an important issue. Is that the important issue for us is those who are elected, what do they do after being elected?
Okay.
So it's very important for us, but the ANC is an important part. Some people try to deny it.
Yeah.
But you were here, you saw the mess which happened in some of the municipalities after 2016.
Correct.
And after 2021.
Yes.
But the ANC was there as an opposition. It was not interfering. It was just exercising its opposition roles. And other parties said, no, ANC, let's come together and do something about this situation. Because you have got the biggest support in this area, in the province. Let's work together. Because you can't ignore that those many voters who in Gauteng and in the municipalities who support the ANC. Because you'll have a disaster.
Yeah. Finally, for real now, it rises from what you said about experience of political parties. Would that be the same reasoning you use to critics who say, for instance, what can you renew, rebuild, and strengthen with the likes of Braambi here as the provincial convener and Dadej Khatev as the convener of KwaZulu-Natal ANC, who have been there, they've done their part, and we're almost retired from politics, and you bring them back?
I think it's a nonsensical argument because ANC has always had veterans and young people working together over all the years. President Mbeki was working with President Tambo when he was young.
Correct.
Like this President Mandela. So organizations you don't have stalwarts and veterans will always talk like that. We have always had veterans and young people working together. Don't say he's a convener, he's a co-convener. There's a convener, Panyaza Lisufi, and him.
Yes, yeah, co-convener.
And there's a deputy, Comrade Ntombi Mekwe.
Yeah.
So it's a team. ANC doesn't operate through executive mechanism. We sit down as a collective, we deliberate, we identify areas of agreement, that becomes a decision, we implement it. So unless people think that the ANC Comrade Masondo is going to take decisions and enforce them. It doesn't operate that way. We have younger people in the PTT. Many of them were in the previous PEC, and those ones who were brought in the PTT who are young. So it's a combination of young and old people. And it's very important for every organization to operate that way, because organizational memory is important to any serious organization. You can't have young people only operating on their own or old people operating on their own. ANC has always had a generational mix, not generation takeover. It's not a policy of the ANC. It's a mix of young and old.
Yeah.
That is why you have Praambi, you have Panyaza working together as co-conveners. In KZN, you still have Comrade Duma working with Comrade Jeff in that collective, and other younger comrades in that PTT who have been appointed. So people think that the ANC just wake up, you are a chair or co-chair, you make declarations like president of some other countries with executive
like President
powers.
Trump.
We are a progressive revolutionary organization. We work through a collective, but once decisions are taken, they must be implemented. Yes. That is why dissent after dissent decisions are taken. It's very, very, very a bad practice. We debate, we take a decision, and then you dissent when we are implementing decisions of the organization. That's not how the ANC works.
Daddy Hope, thank you so much for your time, and all the best for your role that you have been given, which is a massive role in a very important province like Gauteng, the economic hub of South Africa and the African continent. That is it from now, Sunny World. Engage politics. Meet us next time when I have another guest of interest. Eitara.